This is the Civil War most people know about. The war they were taught in school. The bombardment of Fort Sumter and Charleston Harbor. North versus South in battles on a grand scale. Many people visit Fort Sumter and other well-known battlegrounds each year to experience history firsthand. But there was much more to the Civil War than battles won and lost. Michael Allen of the National Park Service is the coordinator of the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor, and his job is to help make visitors to sites like Fort Sumter aware of alternate historical viewpoints that have previously been ignored, to share stories of the fort's laborers as well as its commanders. The Civil War was a turning point in America's history in many ways, one of which was the concentration and preservation of Gullah culture in the Low Country of the Carolinas, Georgia, and Florida. The Union Army took control of the area around Beaufort and Port Royal, South Carolina in November of 1861, driving many plantation owners away from the area for the duration of the war. They left behind a significant population of slaves who were neither legally free nor under anyone else's ownership. Seeing a need to provide an education for this population, Northern missionaries started the Penn School for former slave children in 1862 at the Oaks Plantation on St. Helena Island. The school later moved to the site that is now the Penn Center. Penn Center is a nonprofit organization designed to promote and preserve Sea Island history and culture, and is an official part of the Gullah Geechee Heritage Corridor. It played an important role in the civil rights movement of the 1960s when it was used as a safe meeting place by Martin Luther King Jr. and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Today, Penn Center continues its tradition of education as it hosts school groups, adult learners, and researchers, and brings in speakers, artists, and musicians from the Gullah community in order to raise interest in and awareness of Gullah culture. Dr. Emory Campbell was born and raised in the Sea Islands of South Carolina. He served as the director of the Penn Center from 1980 to 2002 and continues to work to preserve Gullah culture as a consultant and member of the Gullah Geechee Cultural Heritage Corridor Commission. Here he talks about what the Gullah Geechee Corridor is.
It's from Wilmington to Jacksonville, Florida, and it's from the ocean 30 miles in. That's the designation of the Gullah Corridor. Thanks. Why do you think that area? Anybody knows? 30 miles from the ocean, anyone? From Wilmington now to Jacksonville.
Field Order 15.
Pardon me?
Field Order 15, right?
Field Order 15. That's the one. Field Order number 15 had, designated that area as a place for making available 40 acres. And they said they would also sell you no mule. The government would. And that's why folks were so excited about getting into this particular area of the United States. That little continent gave up a lot. And the western part of that continent, right under that little lip there, somewhere, I didn't bring my mouth, but somewhere from about Senegal down southward to about Liberia is where those first rice growers came from. That was considered the rice coast. Senegal grew a lot, that region grew a lot of rice in Africa. They were rice growing people. And most people don't even realize that about that time, mid to late 1700s, rice was the big crop in South Carolina and Georgia. Thousands of acres of rice was grown. Not cotton. Cotton wasn't the first crop among these plantations in this region of South Carolina and Georgia. And they went to that area to pull those rice-growing people out of West Africa. And that slave trade began from that region. And before slavery was over, as you know, they were pulling Africans all the way south as far as Angola and beyond, southward. And also in the interior of Africa, people were being enslaved, bringing them to the shoreline. But those are...
Marlena Smalls founded the Gullah Festival in Beaufort, South Carolina in 1985, and in 1990 she formed her group the Hallelujah Singers in an effort to preserve the Gullah culture. Here she shares her knowledge of the origins of Gullah and why it is an important part of American culture.
I suppose that what I do, probably the key in terms of understanding the African and some of the things that I like to share about him is that places that they came from, Angola and Ghana, Cameroon, Senegal, Togo, Benin, and the Congo, Sierra Leone, just to mention a few, but that any coast, that west coast is part of Africa. And then having to integrate with England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Spain, France, Portugal, and Germany. This country denied the African. And so that makes Gullah even more important because Gullah gives us a face, tells us who we are beyond the description that the European gave us. So again, most Americans believe that our existence started through the period of slavery, which is so untrue and which is so sad. So again, I applaud you for coming here from Vermont, enjoying our sun and our sand, to learn more about the world in which you live in. Oh my good Lord, show me the way. Oh my good Lord, show me the way. Oh my good Lord, show me the way. Enter the chariot and travel alone. Now that song would probably date back to what we consider to be the invisible church. In that musical pattern, you can hear some of the tones and the sounds of the African. The invisible church is the time when the African was still the African, still speaking his tongue, still worshiping and understanding God the way he was taught. That's the invisible church. There was no structured church, and so they would slip into the woods and practice their religion, crying out for some understanding of the world that they found.
Praise houses like this one seen at Coffin Point on St. Helena were important to Gullah culture. In the antebellum period, planters knew it was important to teach slaves religion in order to share the ideals they wanted them to believe in, specifically forgiveness and obedience. Praise houses became the only legal meeting places for Gullah people during the time of slavery. Plantation owners forbade them to participate in drumming or dancing, but African musical traditions were maintained through singing and rhythmic clapping. Consequently, though the praise houses were built to instill the white man's beliefs in his enslaved population, in effect, these became the most important vessels for the preservation of African culture on the plantation. Praise houses maintained their relevance long after the end of slavery and well into the 20th century, serving as de facto community centers where people could come to worship, socialize, seek guidance, or even mediation to resolve differences. Now come inside while Ms. Kitty Green and her daughter Saritha Tuttle of Gullah and Geechee Montours share songs and stories from the Coffin Point Praise House.
In the army of the Lord, I'm a sanctified soldier. In the army, if I die, let me die, Lord. In the army of the Lord, if I die, let me die, Lord. In the army, I'm a soldier. In the army of the Lord, I'm a sanctified soldier. In the army. The army, you know? Yeah. Oh, the army, yeah. Those are pure African melody style songs that you would have found sung in this praise house setting. This was the idea of the slaveholder. When they began to Christianize their slaves, they wanted to make sure that Christianization was done in a controlled setting. And so you found that a spiritualist eventually, initially was picked, and most often that spiritualist had been the priest or priestess in Africa. And you found that this became the governing body within the slave community. We talked a little bit about the fact that the slaveholders continually brought Africans here. And what that helped to do was to reinforce Africanisms. And the very thing that the slaveholders were trying to keep from happening, the survival of the African culture, of course, it happened anyway. This was that place where the African could gather, you know, to air out their daily frustrations from plantation life. Later on in the community, this became that place, whatever was going on politically or socially, those things were talked about, meetings were held here. Even if families had grievances among each other, they were handled in this building. So this was a very important structure, important place in the community, not just in the slave community, but in the community. On the various communities and on the plantations. And the rite of passage also took place here. You during slavery, if you were a child between the age of 10 and 12, you were basically taken out of your slave home. You were placed under the spiritualist, and you were expected to go out into the woods with the intention of having a dream. And once you had this dream, you had to come back, tell the dream, that dream was interpreted, and then you could join the setting. I've been very fortunate that while I've been here plenty of times, I've had a lot of the elders come out. And I don't know if there's any more postcards, but there's one postcard there. That's Miss Brenda Jenkins. And yeah, Miss Brenda Jenkins. And one time I was here and she came out. And I've always asked the elders, well, first she was coming to find out who was here, what was going on. And then when she found out, you know, I enlisted her into my tour. And I asked her what was her experience in the praise house setting when she had to attend here. And she said when she was a little girl, she said she went out and she tells me it'd been early in the morning when I went out. And she tells me, and I've been scared out. And I tell my mom I didn't want to go. But I knew I have to go. And the next thing I know, as I sit there and pray, I fall asleep. And I remember this big white dog come over me and he opened his mouth and he began to talk to me. And I remember when she was telling me the story, I wanted to say, well, what did the dog say? But I didn't. And then she said, then I realized I done had my dream. And I go on home and I holler to my mama, Mama, you hear me call you? She said her mother tells her, no, child, you done had your dream. Go on home. No, go on to your leader house and tell him. And she said before she could get there good, she said he was at the door waiting for her. And he tells her, child, I knew you didn't come. So they say that spiritualists, of course, had the gift where they could touch and heal, could interpret dreams.
The Brick Baptist Church was built in 1855 on St. Helena Island, on the site of what is today the Penn Center. It was built as a church for plantation owners, but was given to former slaves after the Union Army occupied the Sea Islands in 1861. Laura Town and Ellen Murray moved to the Penn School here when it outgrew the Oaks Plantation House. Today, the Brick Baptist Church still maintains an active congregation.
Here at the Brick Church, you'll find where the slaves worshiped, right along with their slaveholders. The slaves entered in through these doors here by separation of sex. Men on one side, women on the other. And those in the slaveholding community would have entered through the two side doors, also by separation. Then there was a seating arrangement. Of course, those in the slave community who had more money and more power, of course, would have sat towards the front. Then you had slaves who sat directly behind them. They would have been house slaves or slaves that brought a certain amount of economics to their slaveholder. Then you had slaves who sat in the top level. Today, this is an African-American church. After the Battle of Port Royal, this went into the hand of the African. And you'll find, what I mentioned earlier, that Gullah was matriarchal. You'll find that process from birth to death.
On January 1st, 1863, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing slaves in any states involved in the rebellion. And on January 16, 1865, General William T. Sherman issued his Special Field Order No. 15, which allowed for 400,000 acres of land along the coastline of South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida to be divided into 40-acre lots, and then to be settled by about 18,000 freed slave families and other blacks living in the area at the time. While Field Order 15 was later revoked by President Andrew Johnson, it still had the effect of drawing thousands of recently freed blacks to the Low Country, creating a concentration of African American culture that still exists today.
As I believe with the will of our Heavenly Father and by direction of your great and good friend whose name you are all familiar with, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, on the first day of January 1863, you will be declared forever free. When in the course of human events there comes a day which is destined to be an everlasting beacon light, marking a joyful era in the progress of a nation and the hopes of a people, it seems to be fitting the occasion that it should not pass unnoticed by those whose hopes it comes to brighten and to bless. Such a day to you is January 1st, 1863. I therefore call upon all colored people in the department to assemble on that day at the headquarters of the 1st Regiment of South Carolina Volunteers, there to hear the President's proclamation read and to indulge in such other manifestations of joy as may be called forth by the occasion. It is your duty to carry this good news to your brethren who are still in slavery. Let all your voices like merry bells join loud and clear in the grand chorus of liberty, we are free, we are free. Until listening, you shall hear its echoes coming back from every cabin in the land, we are free, we are free. R. Saxton, Brigadier General and Military Governor.
Important. She is helping at Penn. It is prior to the emancipation. She has been in the influence. She is a black woman from the North, raised in a very affluent family. She had been around abolitionists all her life. She'd been teaching. She had learned. She had knowledge. And she had an opportunity to be a missionary here. So she is helping at Penn. She knew John Greenleaf Whittier. Anybody know or heard of John Greenleaf Whittier? Okay. In fact, he wrote a poem about the Fortin sisters. Okay, and when you read her diary, you learn all kinds of stuff. But she's here. She's been teaching the children at St. Helena hymn. Oh, none in all the world before were ever glad as we. We're free on Carolina's shore. We're all at home and free. So this is part of their upbringing, these little tiny children and babes. Now emancipation comes January 1st, 1863. A little slow horse. We were going to the celebration. The celebration's going to be held at Camp Saxton. That's where the 1st South Carolina Volunteers are being trained, the 1st Black Regiments. Oh, the lovely boat Flora took us. Crowds of people on board. Blacks and whites and a band of music to delight us all. We passed Buford on the way, heading for Camp Saxon, and as I got out of the dock, out of the boat and went down the docks, I thought I hadn't seen a sight so beautiful. Large live oak trees, the largest grove I have yet seen. Spanish moss dripping off the trees. Men, women, children, black, white, grouped in various attitudes underneath the live oak trees. The meeting commenced with a prayer from Mr. Fowler. Colonel Higginson introduces Dr. Brisbane. Oh, I'm distracted. The lovely men in their handsome uniforms, the black soldiers in their scarlet pants and blue coats. Oh, a prayer was offered. Dr. Brisbane. Dr. Brisbane is a South Carolinian who had released all his slaves several years before the war. And he reads the Emancipation Proclamation. It was warmly cheered. Colonel Higginson is presented the beautiful American flag, and as he took it, the colored folks of their own accord stood up and sang, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring." And they continue to sing. Rufus Saxton, in the diary account, Rufus Saxton is like, wait a minute, and he's like, go on. Because one small voice started. They were up on the right-hand corner, down by where the platform was. That one woman began to sing that song. And by time they began to sing through that first verse, all of the people standing there continued to sing verse after verse of "My country, 'tis of thee."
Freed slaves weren't the only people of African descent who made their way to the Low Country and settled during and after the Civil War. In 1863, the first colored Northern Regiment, the 54th Massachusetts, was created and saw action on the shores of South Carolina. Their graves at the National Cemetery in Beaufort, South Carolina, are a testament to their numbers and to the sacrifices they were willing to make for the Northern cause. Some, such as Vermont's own Loudon Langley, chose to stay in South Carolina after the war and became prominent citizens and politicians, perhaps lured by views such as this one from the Hunting Island Lighthouse, where Langley was the assistant lighthouse keeper toward the end of his life. Gullah culture remains distinct, and the people are only too eager to share their traditions. Local businesses thrive on sharing the Gullah experience with visitors, and the Penn Center helps ensure the preservation of Gullah history, arts, storytelling, and music.
Well, you know it's African, right? And it simply means a little bit of this and a little bit of that. Oh, Lord, can we instance, mama with 12 to 16 headed children, oh Lord, and one chicken. Couldn't she do it? Couldn't she do it? Would not our bellies been full? Oh Lord, 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 that's what it means. A little bit of this and a little bit of that, making a way out of no way. Now don't you feel like moving? Shake, shake, shake. Oh Lord, now let me tell you this. Africans believed in dancing and singing at the same time, and we still do it today. So now you ready? Cause this song got its own moves. Now listen to me, I'm gonna share this with you. What I want you to do is bend your knees and prepare to hop. Are you ready? Here we go. Hop, shake, shake, shake. Hop back, shake, shake, shake. Hop, shake, shake, shake. Hop, shake, shake, shake. Now turn, 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 and shake it. Ooh, and shake it. You with me? One more time. Oh Lord. Hop up, shake, shake, shake. Back, shake, shake, shake. Up, shake, shake, shake. Back, shake, shake, shake. Now turn, ooh, and turn, ooh, and turn, and turn. Oh Lord, and turn, and turn, and turn.
The Civil War was a turning point for the Gullah people. It caused a concentration of African American settlement on the Sea Islands and allowed the Gullah culture to flourish as the people worked to define what freedom looks like for them.
Down by the river to wash my cares away. Down by the river to wash my cares away. Put 'em in a bottle to see if I can solve them. Down by the river to wash my cares away. Down by the river to wash my cares away. Down by the river to wash my cares away. Put 'em in a bottle to see if I can solve them. Down by the river to wash my cares away. Well, I met a little old lady just the other day, sharing words of wisdom is what she had to say. If you have a problem, can't seem to solve them, place them in the river, let them flow to the sea. Down by the river to wash my cares away. I'm gonna go down by the river to wash my cares away. Place all my trouble to see if I can solve them. I'm gonna go down by the river to wash my cares away. Well, I went to the river the very same day, took all my problems, cast them away. No more heartache, trouble for me. All in the river, flow to the sea. Down by the river to wash my cares away. I went on down by the river to wash my cares away. Took all my problems to see if I can solve them. I'm going down by the river to wash my cares away. I went on down by the river. Everybody down by the river. Took all my problems by the river. I went on down by the river to wash my cares away. Well,